So basically, the national cabinet, there's recently shown an alignment between state and federal politicians, and pretty much what the alignment was is that they've all agreed unanimously, to my knowledge, that they want to spend and tax people more. So big surprise there. I'm massively surprised that they want to tax more. Didn't see that coming, but while providing nothing new at the same time. So they basically want to tax more while they're providing nothing new. But where did you actually get this information from? And do you see these policies actually being implemented anytime soon, or is it more just talk?
I was following National Cabinet, and I actually read the National Cabinet papers that were published from their meeting last Friday, I think it was. I had a riveting weekend. I was sitting in an airport. You've got a lot of time to sit there. When you read the papers, pretty much everyone was in unanimous step about government spending. So things like the NDIS, defence, education, social security, all that sort of stuff. They're just like, yeah. But then when you actually go through it, you go, well, if I deduct 1 and 1 from 4, I get 3. They don't have the 3, so where are they going to get the 3 from? Well, that's got to come from URI or somewhere else. It's got to be taxed, and it's the only way they can do it. Meanwhile, they're not actually providing anything new, because most of the increased expenditure is going to come from bracket creep, basically. The increased wage bills, which means that if you get increased wages, even through government departments, you're going to get more tax revenue on it. And so basically what they're going to do is they increase the government salaries, they take a bit more tax from there to fill a hole, but the expense is heavily on government, because then they've got to pay their really good super and all the other bonuses and all the other crap they do. So that's got to come from somewhere. And our tax pool is getting smaller, right? There's less people out there paying tax, and less people out there that can afford to pay tax, especially if people are starting to lose their jobs, that can contribute to this pool. So it was very telling, and there was pretty much hardly any dissent. And that's what you expect in the papers, in the papers, that they're normally pretty much. But you've got people in cabinet, national cabinet. And national cabinet is all the premiers and their hangers on. Even Perrottet was in lockstep with the federal government. And it just goes to show you that it doesn't matter which colour of the street, stride, or what side they're on, they're all out to get you. What we've got to draw a line in the sand on is who's going to get us there slowest, so we have the chance to build and push back, but also who's going to step up and try and stop it. And there is no one. Everyone that I see that puts their hand up now to run, pretty much they're in it for the power. They think they know better than you, so that scares me more than the people that are already in there. Could we end up with a splintering of parliament from this sort of stuff? Maybe, but I doubt it. They're all comfy,
Yeah. Who do you think this will affect the most? I think I know the answer just based off history, but who do you think it will affect the most? Do you think it'll be the lower class, middle class, upper class, or where do you think it will heavily affect, like which area?
It always affects the middle class.
Yeah.
So always throughout history, the class that always rises and falls and gets squashed is the middle class, because the people right down the bottom, government gives them handouts to survive, because the government relies on them for being useful idiots. The middle class are traditionally called the merchant class, and they're the ones who traditionally go against government. They're entrepreneurial, free thinkers. your farmers, your mercantile guys, your builders, your chippies, you know, all that sort of stuff. And then you got the elites up the top and the upper echelon, you know, the upper class lawyers, accountants, people that run the big companies and all that sort of stuff. They tend to side with the government because they don't want to lose their cushy perks. So the middle class always gets screwed, and government always makes stuff that squashes the middle class.
Yeah. And how do you think they'll actually introduce it? Because if they're doing it to especially target the middle class, how is it actually going to look? Do you think they'll just straight out announce it that there's going to be more taxes and make it pretty clear from the beginning? Or is it going to be stealth tax?
No, they won't. They won't. Well, actually, they will announce it because it's in the national cabinet papers and it's in the policies that they got. But the biggest thing that's going to stifle most people is bracket creep, right? So if you're not structured in the right way, you're taking most of your, say you're self-employed and you're taking most of your income as an individual, not as a company. Stupid move, but hey, we'll move on from that. That as inflation goes up and your wages goes up and you move from one tax bracket to the next, the government wins. You lose, but the government wins, right? Because you might have got a 7% increase, but in some cases, that could be a 10% extra in overall tax, right? Because we've got a progressive tax system, you may find yourself at the wrong end of a new tax bracket, purely and simply because they haven't adjusted the thresholds and the levels. So that's pretty much how it goes. Inflation is the biggest tax of all. And you've got to remember, as inflation goes, the government wins because the GST goes up. Right? So if you bought a brick for $1, right, 10% GST, if next week it's $1.50, it's 15 cents GST. Right? So the government wins. And the government always wins because they keep, you know, they increase by GST. Some things have stamp duty on them, alcohol, tobacco. So if all that's going up, the stamp duty is going up, the GST is going up. Fuel excise, as fuel goes up, they make more money. There's a lot of hidden taxes, and the government makes more and more money out of the hidden taxes than it does the ones that are in front of you.
Yeah, and I like what you said about the not getting paid by individuals, just because obviously the way you're structured, that's ultimately what will be the crunch of it, is whether you choose to operate like a business owner, because ultimately those are the type of people that succeed when you're operating at that level compared to people who are employees. And I was actually thinking while you were speaking on that for anyone who hasn't seen our videos on structures, like what Stephen was talking about, being paid as an employee compared to in a structure or a trust or something like that, then we do have some free videos on the membership side. I think anyone listening to this would really benefit from that if you are in that position and you're looking to do that. So just check out our membership site. In the we do have a module there on minimizing tax 100% legally, and there'll be a video there for you just to understand more about the type of structures and being paid as an employee compared to a structure. It's a really good starting point that I'm sure you can agree, Stephen, that anyone at that level can start off with. It's not too overwhelming to understand, just as long as you commit to learning.
Yeah, and look, it's probably the easiest thing that you can do is actually take all your income as a company. Now, there is some nuances in it and that, but the reason I say that is an individual gets paid, pays tax, then spends. A company gets paid, spends, then pays tax, right? That's why Google and all these big companies don't pay any tax, is because they get their revenue in. And that's why when it's ever reported in the media, they say, you know, such and such a company on $20 billion of revenue didn't pay any tax. Yeah, because they had expenses to take out of that, you idiot, right? Because what they're trying to do in the media is make you think that companies get taxed the same way as an individual, that they pay tax on their revenue, right? So think of the income, your income, right? The media are trying to make the company sound the same. Well, it's not. You know, they get taxed in different ways and at lower rates, right? Like a small company is 25%. And that's 25% on whatever profit it makes. But, you know, you can make a company, you know, if it's set up right and you're expensing stuff right and you're doing stuff inside the law and all that sort of stuff. You can get your tax bill down to 5%. You know, purely because of the way you're operating as a business. And that's why I say one of the best tax strategies that you can is to be a business.
Yeah, definitely. And it's always interesting seeing the mindset shift you've got to make to be able to do that and minimizing taxes and escaping those kinds of laws legally. Because we actually put up I'm sure you've had it, that quote from Kerry Packer that he said in a press conference about that he, as a government official, he knows that he's not going to be that governments don't spend money that well, that they should be donating extra. We put that up on our Instagram and we got quite a lot of views on it. It actually reached close to 300,000 views the other day. And it's interesting reading through the comments of it, just seeing the kind of mindset that people have around taxes, that it's dodgy and whatnot, and that people are against it, compared to people who are more sovereign, who just know the system and they just find ways around it. So as much as practical it is, like actually implementing the structure, it's also a big thing about the mindset. That's really the big part of it, is knowing the system and being able to escape it.
It's a game. And like if I see people, you know, and I put that quote up on my social media, or my team has put that up on my social media, and you see the same sort of things about, you know, all he was doing was robbing no, he wasn't. He was just playing the game. You know, Kerry Packer, Kerry Stokes, you know, Clive Palmer, all these guys are probably the best at playing the game. That's why they're billionaires, right? If you're going to play the game of business, play it to win. And to play to win, you need the best people around you, so they have the best team, right? And that's why these guys are billionaires, is because they've got the best team and they get the right advice and they act on that advice, right? They make the decision. At the end of the day, these guys make the decision. They don't let their advisors push them into the corner. They sit there and make the decision that this is what I'm going to do and this is how I'm going to do it. And then they take the consequences and the glory at the end of it. And what it also shows you is the brainwashing that's now in our education systems and through the media and all that sort of stuff. Every time I see something on a current affair or, you know, one of those ads that pops up on social media, you know, watch 7:30 as we go after a tax dodger, right? Pretty much what the guy's done, nothing is illegal. Nothing is illegal. And our whole society now has merged and is taking moral and ethical positions, right? And saying that that's a legal position. Moral and ethical positions aren't legal. Emotional decisions are made over here in this moral and ethical thing. Fair enough, we all should have a moral code and all that sort of stuff. But you've also got to understand the system. And if you understand the system, the rules are written, right? Use them. It's as simple as that. You know, I don't know where I was. And someone, I was at breakfast. It was a breakfast event I was at. And the guy asked the guy on the panel, the MC asked the guy on the panel, he said, what's the best thing the best advice you could give kids today that will make them a millionaire. And he without hesitation, he said, turn off social media. Straight away, you know. He said, my kids, I've done it with my kids, banned them from social media. They get, you know, an hour of it on the weekend or something. And he said, all of a sudden they're going after other things. Right? Social media, we should ban social media. No ifs, buts, or maybes. It should be banned or heavily controlled like the media industry is. Right? That you've got to be, you've got to be like a reporter. You can't hide behind an anonymous name. Right? You've got to actually have and be credentialed, because it's too easy for drop kicks out there to have anonymous handles. Right? Own up, be a man or be a woman, right? And own your name. Right? If you're going to hide behind an anonymous thing, no one's going to take you serious anyway. Out there. You know, people say, oh, it's for privacy. No, if you want privacy, get off it. Because I can tell you now, the people that really want to find out who you are, an anonymous handle is not going to stop them. It takes them about 30 milliseconds to work out who you are. Right? All you got to do is grab a photo of someone's Facebook page, run it through Google Images, and it'll find your name in literally seconds. Right? So, you know, own your name, own up to it. The problem is most people are cowards, and most people are sheep, and don't have an opinion of their own self, and that includes politicians. You know.
Pretty much modern society in a nutshell. But yeah.